Ready, and so we are starting. Hey everyone, welcome to today's live stream. What we're doing today is having the G6 warm up against the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, because in less than a month we have the TV Shootout. And why is the G6 warming up against the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II? Quite simply, dun dun dun, it is time to talk about the Value Electronics TV Shootout coming up on July 18th. Yes, can LG finally beat or at least tie the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II? This would be the second year the Bravia 8 Mark II is rolling over. Last year it won King of TVs. This year it returns to defend its title because Sony decided that, hey, it's so good, why update it, right? And the G6 is definitely an update to the G5. All new processor. I think the panel was fine. The question is whether the processor was good enough, and it definitely was not. So today we have the G6, and it's been calibrated by Dewayne Davis. So if you do want your G6 or Bravia calibrated by the one and only Dewayne Davis at Value Electronics, order it from Value Electronics. They will definitely match all authorized retailer prices, and then you can talk to them about what TVs you want calibrated, what modes. I have mine calibrated Dolby Vision, ISF, and filmmaker mode. The other the other profiles are not. So when you see vivid mode or standard, that's not calibrated. And film is not calibrated, but it could be. If you want your, I mean, not film, game mode is not calibrated, but if you want game mode calibrated, it can be done. So what we're gonna do today, and I'm gonna remind you guys, don't forget, July 18th, the shootout I'll be hosting with Brian. We're gonna have the G6 versus the Bravia 8 Mark II versus the S95H, the best OLED TVs of 2026, and then later in the day, the best RGB SQD TVs of 2026, the Samsung R95H versus true RGB TV Sony Bravia 9 Mark II against TCL X11L SQD flagship. That's going to be exciting as well. Okay, so big hello to everyone. Yes, I'm going to start off with gaming, and I had the TV's HDR calibrated. I'll tell you how I did it. I matched it to the G6 actually, because the G6 is brighter, and actually this works out for the Sony. A lot of you will be complaining, wait a minute, the Sony doesn't go as bright as the G6. Well, let's see if it does. I think this is important, and then I will show you the firmware I'm on, because literally this morning turned everything on, okay, ready to go, and both TVs announced, hey, we have an update ready. I'm like, no. So I do have, I'll show you what firmware we're on in a second. Let's get to some of your super chats. Oh yes, you guys are ready to go. Man, I love it. This is a Sunday and everyone is here. Hello to everybody. Quickly, June Lean. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Got the 85-inch RGB Bravia 9 Mark II. This TV is nothing but marketing hype. Already own the first Bravia 9. I think the original Bravia 9 might even look better. RGB is a scam. Save the money. Everybody, just get the first Bravia 9 if it's still in stock. First of all, it's no longer in stock, and as I've said it before, I had the Bravia 9 Mark I against the 9 Mark II, and you saw, only in some content does the 9 Mark II really beat the 9, right? Slightly brighter, color is the same, near shadow, the 9 actually beat the 9 Mark II in some instances. Ultimately, you're getting the 9 Mark II for two reasons. Two reasons that you will visibly see. First, the anti-glare. So Junlin, if you're in a brighter room, that anti-glare is really good. In a dark room, it's pointless. So anti-glare, excellent. I'd say it is right up there with the Samsung S95H, slightly better than the G6. Anti-reflection works well. Secondly, is that extra off-angle color saturation. It is better than the Bravia 9. LCDs aren't perfect. It's not as good as a OLED, but it's better than the Bravia 9 Mark I. Those are the two big ones, because bright content doesn't exist, right? Other than Jennifer Gala. If you're watching Netflix, Disney Plus, you're not going to see extra brightness. Sports, maybe a little bit extra. But the reality is, the Bravia 9 is so close to the best already. The 9 Mark II could only push where the 9 just doesn't do it. Anti-glare, oh, and the audio, a little bit louder on the 9 Mark II, right? Little minor things. And lastly, uniquely, it has the solid wood frame that will be available later in the year. That's it. So yeah, I don't know. It's slightly better. It is overhyped. That's, I think, well, overhyped meaning everyone says it's a game changer. It's iteratively better. So if I was to say, hey, the Bravia 9 Mark 1 needs to improve here and there, the 9 Mark 2 does improve here and there. It actually hits 4,000 nits, peak specular highlights. It actually has better off angle, and it has better anti-glare. Is it worth the extra $1,500? Absolutely not. If you can get the Bravia 9, get it at whatever size you can get. I've already said this is a legendary TV, the Bravia 9 Mark 1. But those of you who listen got it. Congratulations. Everyone else, you're out of luck. It's sold out mostly everywhere. Follow up, super chat. Thank you, Junlin. Plus, the Bravia 9 Mark 2 looked kind of dim compared to the first Bravia 9, the Mark 1. My guess, because Sony is cutting corners one way or another, and the matte screen ain't helping either. So it definitely is picture mode specific. I think the Bravia, well, I know the Bravia 9 Mark 2 is brighter. Its vivid mode is definitely brighter. And more importantly, it's also the source. But ultimately, if it's TV shows, news, and whatnot, it's the same brightness. Those things don't exceed 500 nits, right? So, and I've said this many times, if all you guys are watching is just basic streaming, the Bravia 9 Mark 2 is amazing for its anti-reflection, better audio, but the brightness and all that stuff, it's going to look very similar. Yeah, so sorry you're so disappointed, right? But hey, what can you do? What can you do? You can only go by what people have told you. I think the Bravia 9 is such an amazing TV if you can get it for the price it is, and it is what it is. El Jefe, thank you for that super chat. What's going on with the LG MRGB 95? It was a huge hype at CES and no reviews upon release. So it may be quote unquote released, but is it really? LG does a terrible job seeding it to reviewers to review. Mostly, I think they don't want us to review it because, as much as the hype is, it actually, I think, is probably not as good as the RGB TV, and even possibly maybe not as good as the R95H. And so instead of having it confirmed by reviewers, LG would just rather you don't know the truth. I mean, reviewers who are willing to buy this and then review it on their own dime, maybe ratings will do it. They'll know what it is because in a vacuum, it does look really good. But how does it compare to SQD X11L compared to the R95H and compared to the Bravia 9 Mark II side by side? We don't know. Now, Value Electronics should be getting the MRGB 95, and as soon as they get it, Brian's going to compare it next to the R95H or the Bravia 9 Mark II, and then we'll see, relatively speaking, how it compares. But yeah, LG, when it comes to LCD TVs, that's not their thing. Their thing is OLED TVs. So, it's like you're going to LG to buy an LCD, it doesn't make sense. Don't do it. Get it either from Sony or Samsung. They are focused on LCD TVs for the last several years. LG has not. All their LCD TVs over the last several years that are above mid-tier have been terrible. Even their mid-tiers struggled to beat entry-level mini LED TVs from other makers. So I am not recommending you guys put this on the top of your list until reviews come out that confirm that this is actually a legit flagship level, because it's not cheap. Just keep that in mind. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, 1 second here. No W6 reviews. So let me tell you what I know about the W6 so you guys have an idea. And the W6 is the equivalent of the G6, except it's much thinner, W for wallpaper, but keep this in mind. And I'm going to have a dedicated video on this. So the G3, the G4, the G5, and the G6, there's been complaints that when it goes super bright, like from off to vivid, there's crackling and popping. Do you know why? It's because there's expansion, hardware expansion within the TV itself, and going from cold to bright, some people hear it. When LG was asked about it, they confirmed, hey, this is what happens when it gets too bright. It is what it is. You guys want a 4,000 nit TV or 3,000 nit TV? Deal with the sound. The W6 doesn't even have that heat sink. I don't know if it could get as bright. It's supposed to, spec-wise, but because it's so thin, I don't know. Now, on the flip side, the G6, G5, G4, whatever, if you hear the crackle and pop and it bothers you and you reach out to LG, Their fix is to send a technician and insert some kind of a padding where they already know where it's gonna crack and kind of warp a little bit. And this is within normal performance standards, tolerances, so you're not gonna get a replacement. It's not a warranty call, but sometimes they will insert padding to minimize or eliminate the noise. And that's their fix for you. So this is why I say we are at the limit of performance for these OLEDs. Even LG, who is like pushing brightness brighter than anyone else, right? The hammer, the thing's cracking and popping, and that's within tolerances, engineering tolerances, and they're telling you, look, it's going to make noise. Stop asking for more brightness, right? I mean, essentially, that's what I'm getting out of them. And so back to the W6. I suspect the W6, without the heat sink of the G6, I don't know if you can get as bright. I mean, it's got to be throttled back, right? So, but again, W6 spec-wise, on paper, is supposed to be identical to the G6. The reality, I have my doubts. I really do. But, we'll see. And yes, we're going to start with gaming. You guys are going to see the image quality comparisons. Honestly, they look identical to me. This is HGIG mode, right? You look at this, we'll go over the settings shortly. I just wanted to make sure I covered all of your quick super chats real quick before we jumped in, because once we jump in, it'll be a few minutes before I catch up to your super chats. Hey, thank you again, Junlin, for the super chat. LG ain't even promoting their own Micro RGB TV. Nor did they promote last year's QNED, nor the year before. That's could have been their MO the last few years. That's how you know something is not right. They just put it out just to say they have RGB TV too. I completely agree. And that's what they've been doing with Mini LED, right? So yeah, I think LG, they just want to be in the conversation, but you saw LG Display, their sister company, actively undermines how good RGB TV is. They actively say it's terrible, OLED is better, don't buy it. So that kind of internal struggle within LG tells you a lot about how they really think about RGB TVs. Okay, let me play real quick so you guys can see the different scenes and so forth. And I'll tell you right now, the brightnesses to me look identical. Colors look very similar. And we'll go over the settings real quick. And yes, this is why I don't like doing gaming live. Because on this, oh geez, on this splitter, it tends to black out every now and then. What is happening here? All right, let me not touch this for a minute. Okay, let's go over the settings. So start with the Sony, and then we'll go over the calibration that I did for both of them in HDR, but just wanted you guys to see. So we are in standard game mode, right? So standard game mode, according to Sony, this is their HGIG. It comes off HGIG out of the box, and there is no HGIG label. And as you can see, I think the colors look identical as far as I'm concerned, but let's go through it and you'll see. Picture settings real quick. So we are in standard game mode. Brightness is max 90. Now, gradation preferred. When I calibrate on the PS5, I have tone mapping off so that I get the correct clipping point. And then once that HDR calibration is done, then I turn on gradation preferred. And this works perfectly because the G6 has an even higher clipping point. So this allows the Sony to actually tone map any clipping down to its capability. And ultimately it ends up looking identical in terms of brightness for this game. I know every game is different. You guys, I understand that, but I only have so many games I'm going to play at any given time. And I choose Black Myth Wukong for the motion, the action, and the shadow detail, not necessarily the ultimate brightness. I get it. Okay, let's see. Black level, these are all default. Peak luminance on high. Color, so this is the thing. I put it on neutral because that's what the LG is, right? LG out of the box, game mode, it's on neutral. In neutral, they're the same, but you could obviously go to cool or expert one, and it's very cinematic now, right? It has that yellow tint. I actually don't like it. I actually like neutral. It's easier on the eyes for me personally, but nothing's wrong. You could choose, there's no right answer there. Choose whatever you want. Okay. Now on the LG, real quick, it is, okay, so, standard, that is their HGIG. So oops, back to standard, there we go. And then the settings, you'll see real quick what we have. I have tone mapping is off. Go to advanced settings. Can you see that? Oop, too bright. I tell you, the menu system on this thing is just, okay, there you go. Now you can see it. So brightness, OLED bright, so 100, dynamic tone mapping, HGIG, right? As you can see, we keep dynamic tone mapping off, expression enhancer is off. There we go. Okay, so it's an HGIG mode, color. This is default. I did not change it. It's what it is. And it was not calibrated. Game mode was not calibrated by Dewayne Davis. Okay, so it looks, the color looks identical on both of them. Once you set it down, and let me see if you guys can see that. There we go. Right? Colors look, now, you may see differences on YouTube because the Bravia 8 Mark II is QD-OLED, and the LG G6 is tandem WOLED, and my camera sensors are sensitive to different panel technologies and will show them differently. You will notice that the Bravia 8 Mark II might have a slight magenta tint. The G6 may have a slight green that's not there. And so when you put the two together, they both look like they're totally different colors. In some scenes, they're not. They look near identical to me in this scene. And you know, it's just, so let me increase the exposure a touch so you guys can see the shadow detail. And the shadow detail look very similar. I mean, arguably, you could say the G6 might be a touch darker in the shadow detail, right? But I find them to be, like, by eye, they look very similar to me. Okay, and then we'll do a little gaming here for you guys. This will be the first time I think I'm doing this live. Okay, hopefully the exposure or the actual scenes don't change so much. Okay, yeah, you can do that. You're gonna have a lot of motion blur because YouTube is not, this is not Twitch, right? This is YouTube live stream, so hopefully, let me see, okay, so I'm gonna turn up the exposure a touch here. There we go. Okay, much better. All right. I mean, they both look great, by the way. So for those complaining that Sony's HGIG is not legit HGIG, compared to the G6, the brightness, everything looks identical to me. Honestly, I mean, you guys are seeing it. Other than the slight color tonal differences due to the panel technology differences, as we said before, don't trust what you see on YouTube because it is QD-OLED on the bottom, tandem OLED on top. They actually look nearly identical with the exception of the slight magenta on the 8 that you will see, but it's not there. Okay, let's do this. All right. Boom. Let me see. Oh yeah, brightness looks great. And you see the zebra? I did the zebra for you guys so that you can see what it looks like. So, you know, whatever one's brighter is the one that may have the zebra and the other one doesn't. Unfortunately, I'm playing, so I cannot adjust on the fly. I'm not playing to win, just to get you a feel for the colors. All right. Oh, did I die? No, not yet. Yes. Okay, finally. All right. So let's go through the settings real quick so you guys can see the brightness. Okay, so ultimately, in-game, in this game specifically, they look very much similar, right? If not identical. So I understand that, actually, you know, let me turn down the exposure so I can take you to the HDR calibration real quick. And then we'll talk about Dolby Vision. We're going to compare Dolby Vision today too. This is not Dolby Vision gaming, by the way. This is just regular FOMO gaming. Whatever that means, right? All right, let's go down here. Oops. There it is. Yeah, unfortunately, for this splitter I have, sometimes it just doesn't hold onto the signal as well. Okay, HDR. Okay, so let me get the exposure right so we can do this HDR calibration live for you guys. All right, super bright right there. So let's take that down. Okay, I think you guys can see it, hopefully. Okay, so first of all, in this calibration, clearly the G6 is brighter. Full screen, it is super bright. So I'm going to turn up the exposure so you can see how bright this full screen is. The first one to hit the zebra is the G6. That's half a stop. There you go. So the Sony is only half a stop behind. And as you can see, you have different white points on both of them. That's just how the TVs are. G6 in game mode is not calibrated. This is just how, this is the personalities of the TVs. And the Sony has that magenta tint I was talking about. All right, so, oops. Okay, let's do this quickie. All right, so let's turn off the Sony's tone mapping real quick so that it has this natural clipping point. That way the tone mapping algorithm is not artificially asking for us. So there you go, tone mapping is off. And we know that the LG is already an HGIG, so I don't have to do anything for the LG. Okay, let's do it real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. So at 15 it disappears, right? Which is about what people have discovered, gamers. So 14, 15, it's gone. G6 is still going. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21, right? 22 it disappears, so about 21. So there you go. Next. So let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Sony disappears. 22, 23. The G6 disappears. All right, let's set it to 22. Next. This one is much closer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And let me turn up exposure so you can see. So we're at 11, right? There you go. At 11, the Sony's still there. 11, 12. Okay, at 12, the G6 about disappears. Sony's still there. There you go. So they're about 2 off, something like that. All right, it's close enough. Okay. Now, let's go back to the game so you guys can see how similar they look regardless of what we did. I'm going to turn tone mapping back on to gradation preferred on the Sony. Tone mapping. There we go. HDR tone mapping is off. We are on gradation preferred now. Let me double check that. All this blinking is throwing me off. All right, yeah. Gradation preferred. Yep. Okay. And LG is still in HGIG mode, right? So let's double check that real quick. Oops. Standard. Yep, HGIG mode. Oh, hey, while we're here, let's look at our firmware. We are on, let's check for one more, just in case they snuck in a firmware update just now. Okay, we are on 43.11.68, latest version, June 28th. All right, that is the LG G6 and the Sony, real quick. Sony, it's not as easy to get the firmware, the update. Oops, there we go. It's not as easy to get the update version on the Sony. Okay, let's make it easier for you guys to see. Software update is ready. Ah, okay, it took that long. Now I'm gonna turn off the Sony. It's updating as we speak. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, while it's updating, let's answer your. Oh, this is why people don't do it live. All right, let's get to your super chats in case you have any. And all right, no super chats. So let me get to all your questions. This is what happens, my friends. All right. If I missed your questions, just keep on asking away, and then we will hit it. And I'll wait for the Sony to finish updating, and then we'll do it one more time. Maybe the Sony will unleash its brightness. And yes, we'll do some SDR sports brightness to see if that changes anything. So while Sony's updating, still, we'll continue waiting. All right, so people are kicking themselves here. Maddie Daddy, I'm still kicking myself for not getting the 85-inch Bravia 9 or Mark 1 or even the 75-inch, but I'm happy with the 77-inch Z8B8, which is the Panasonic good TV from last year for now. We tell you, you know what? All I can do is remind you guys, but it's an OLED. So you got some great stuff happening with an OLED, no doubt. Aha, I think the Sony is done. Let's see if it looks the same. It should look the same. And then I'll check the tone mapping one more time. Okay. Sammy Davis. It's a Dewayne Davis, my friend. He is the calibrator at Value Electronics. And Dewayne Davis actually will talk to you on the phone to make sure you're getting what you want. So depending on what you want calibrated, right? Calibration obviously is an additional cost, and you can get game mode calibrated. You can get whatever modes you want, bright room, only dark room, only filmmaker mode. He will make sure it takes care of you. All right. And nothing's changed. It looks the same as far as gaming is concerned. So maybe other things will change, but I think gaming looks pretty much the same right here. And make sure the settings is where we want to be. So that's one thing with this generation of Sony. You got to wait for the SoC to get caught up. So we are game mode standard. That is correct. All right, picture settings. So yeah, we are on the most recent Sony update for June, end of June. Right, brightness, gradation preferred. Yep, tone mapping is there. Peak luminance, high, color, neutral. Yep, that matches the LG. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit for you guys. Oh, here's a nice scene. There you go. A little shadow detail. I'm telling you, they look very similar. So I think it's safe to say the HGIG on both look great. Let me go to the Specular highlights real quick for you guys. Some cavern torches here. You guys take a look at when it comes back online. There we go. Okay. And let's look at okay. They seem to have the same brightness in terms of specular highlights, right? You see the torch, the zebra appears to be happening at the same time. Yeah, I mean, so Sony, I think Sony's got the HGIG mode down as long as you're in standard game mode, as far as the gaming picture mode. I mean, you can argue that the G6 slightly darker shadow detail on the left hand side, just slightly, but not by much. Now, the G6 is not calibrated. It's just, it has the official HGIG mode, but I don't think it makes a big difference. Let me turn up exposure a touch. Yeah, so the G6 is a touch, I mean, it's just a little bit darker in that shadow detail. But other than that, everything else looks very much the same. So I would not, I mean, look at the torch, right? It's Zebras, it hits the same specular highlights, and I'm eyeballing the color, very similar, both in neutral. So we're going to do Dolby Vision next, so you guys can see the differences in Dolby Vision, if any. Let me take some of your questions, and then we'll put this away. All right. So we have a couple super chats. Slim Dunn, thank you. Please show some movie and TV shows too. I want to see how each look from one another. Yes, so we're going to do Netflix because it is the most common streaming platform. TV shows, we will do free Roku TV because there are TV shows on Roku TV. And then I will make sure when we do the TV shows, I'll go to SDR because a lot of cable content is SDR, so we'll do that. We'll start with Dolby Vision, and then we'll move to HDR10. We'll do TV shows, SDR, and then we'll do some Jennifer Gala, so you guys can see the peak brightness differences between the TVs, if that's important to you. I'm doing it at the end because I think peak brightness, I mean, there's no content above 1,000 nits that you guys normally watch anyway, other than 5 movies, right? So yes, we'll do that, Slim Done. But remind me if you want any more content. And I know Jason Conrad wants to see the maximum brightness in vivid mode for both TVs. Opinion on the Bravia 7 Mark II regular versus Pro. I plan to get the 98-inch with Robert at Value Electronics. Yes, don't forget, ask for the FOMO deal and get it calibrated. Thank you for your time today and everything you do. Okay, Cinema Trap. The Pro on the Bravia 7 Mark II introduces 2 things. One, backlit remote. On the Bravia 9 Mark II, the backlit remote is standard. You don't have to go Pro. On the Bravia 7 Mark II, going Pro gets you a backlit remote. That's not on the standard Bravia 7 Mark II. I know it's expensive, it should be there. It isn't. So you get that, and then you get the 3-year replacement warranty, meaning most of the time, well, actually all the time, when your TV is under manufacturer warranty, they will try to fix it. And if they can't fix it, then they will replace it with an equivalent TV at the time. Sony says, look, if there's something wrong with it, we'll just replace it. No attempted fix, right? As long as there's something actually wrong with it that's under warranty, which is the normal breakage, whatever that may be, they'll just replace it. And Sony is the one doing the replacement, not a third-party insurance company. So you're working directly with Sony. And if you buy it from Robert, he will be your point man to make sure it all happens. So Value Electronics takes great pride in helping you negotiate that replacement. So rather than you calling Sony, talk to Robert. He will, over the phone say, okay, this is what's wrong. He will try to get you that replacement. That way, you don't say the wrong things. Like, for example, I tell people all the time, if you buy an LG OLED from Robert, but then when you talk to LG and you don't say the right words, you're going to have issues. Because some people say, I think I have burn-in. The minute you say I have burn-in, LG, if it's not a G6 or a G5 or a G4, they may not cover it. Instead, if you go through Robert, he's going to say to them, there's this weird looking thing on the panel. We don't know what it is. That's all he's going to say. They're like, what weird looking thing? Well, here's a picture. And they're like, huh. Now, they may know it may or may not be burn-in. Regardless, Robert will not say the word burn-in because it may not be included in the coverage for that particular TV, whether it's Panasonic or an LG B series, right? So he's going to help you negotiate those warranties. So no differently, even if you have a 3-year warranty direct with Sony, you should use Robert. That's why you buy from mom and pop. They want to make it easy for you. But yes, congratulations. Get it calibrated. Definitely dark mode, right? When you have light control in a bright room, get your professionals in dark room. The cinema movie mode is the bright room. And if you want sports to be a little bit more color accurate when you're watching certain flat movies and you want the HDR to have impact, I get vivid mode calibrated too, right? Might as well have good skin tones. He's at it, right? So yeah, talk to him about that for sure. And next up, thank you. TS88 199. Yeah, I think you've been here before. Thank you for coming back. Is the Bravia 7 even close to this year's LCD TVs? Absolutely. So if you watch my Bravia 7 review from last year, after all the firmware updates, it actually is very close to the Bravia 9. It's not as bright. Skin tones are right there. The contrast appears very similar. I mean, everything is similar. It's kind of like Bravia 9 is the steroidal version of the Bravia 7. A little bit louder, a little bit brighter, slightly better contrast if you have the right content to see the difference. But if you're watching TV shows, Netflix, and Disney Plus, on angle, you cannot tell the difference. As you go off angle, the Bravia 9 does better off angle than the Bravia 7. But on angle, they are very similar. And watching sports, nearly identical. So the answer is yes, but on the Bravia 7, I say get the largest TV you can for sure. I like to see this Overlook TV in some comparisons. Check out my older review. I think the Bravia 7 was the Eat Crow one. We're like, wow, this 7 after the firmware updates. I love it. So yeah, look at my older reviews on the 7 from last year, and I liked it a lot. I recommended it at the end of the day. And Fire Triode. Hey, it's very smart to go through the pros. Save money and make sure you have what you've actually paid for in the long run. Absolutely. And here, Robert. Okay, in my opinion, 0.68 dropped the brightness in Vivid. Okay, we'll test that. I saw it immediately because the G6 was killing it on the last 2 updates. It was awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a second G6, so I can compare G6 against G6. I could only compare it against the G5. But the S95H is very bright. I used it to compare the QM7 and the X11L, and shockingly, the S95H was brighter than both TVs in certain scenes and modes. I was like, whoa. I mean, in gaming, I was like, wow, this S95H is a beast. And the G6 was slightly brighter than that. So we're there as far as OLED is concerned. The flagship OLEDs are as bright, if not brighter, than the absolute best Mini LED RGB TVs of 2026. So I love it. If you guys are OLED buyers up to 83 inches or Mini LED buyers, they've converged and are very similar in image quality now, regardless of their strengths. Okay, so we're done with gaming. Let's move to Dolby Vision comparison on Netflix. I'll be right back. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Yep, Dolby Vision. Let's make sure. And yes, we'll go into filmmaker mode so you have accurate Dolby Vision. Okay, yep, Dolby Vision is there. Let's take you to the most accurate versions of Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision Dark on the Sony. Let's make sure the color isn't still neutral and it's what it's supposed to be. See, gradation preferred. Yep. So let me show you the settings. So we're on gradation preferred on the Netflix. Peak luminance is high. All right. You know what? Let's just reset the picture settings for Dolby Vision Dark. I just want to make sure you get the out-of-the-box experience. So, all right. So here we are. This is default Dolby Vision. HDR tone mapping is off. In default? Okay. Well, let's keep it off then. Who am I to argue with Sony's default settings? We'll turn it on if we see issues, but I'll just leave it off. And on the LG, yep, we are Dolby Vision filmmaker mode. Right? Yeah, so make sure you guys can see that. Now, Dolby Vision filmmaker mode was calibrated by Dewayne Davis. So the brightness should be reference. So this G6 I'm using as a reference in shadow detail and brightness. Forget the color for now, because again, panel differences, right? QD-OLED versus tandem OLED. Any color differences you see, it's not what it is. Just focus on the shadow detail and the peak brightness, because the G6, we know what it's capable of. It can do anything Netflix throws at it. That is its, so we're going to use that as a reference to compare the Bravia 8 Mark II, and maybe this recent update fixed all that's wrong with it. And I know many of you complained that the last update screwed up Dolby Vision, so we're going to have some dark scenes to see if it did screw up the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II. All right, peak brightness. So this is all default, or this is all calibrated, not default, for Dolby Vision, filmmaker mode. All right. Now we're going to check out some scenes in Frankenstein. I do love Frankenstein for the darker scenes, which is where LG G6 fell apart last year, is these darker scenes in the shootout. So we'll see. And I'll turn, okay, let's pause right here. Let's turn up exposure. Okay. All right, now, this is a great one. You have the shadow detail of the jacket, the pure black of the jacket, and then you have color everywhere else. This is one where if there's any macro blocking where his right arm is kind of sticking out below his armpit against the chair, there was macro blocking on the G5 that was not on the G6. So the G6 definitely cleaned that up. All right, so let's get it bright for you guys. Okay, here we are. Wow, they look near identical. Oh, I think maybe the G6 has a shot. So look at the shadow detail. Look at the black levels, right? The G6 is not crushed. Yes, it is calibrated. So if you want this level of Dolby Vision performance, get it calibrated. But look at the color saturation, right? They're nearly identical, right? The reds and everything. Maybe it's arguable that the Sony is slightly over brightened in the colors. That's why the G6 color saturation looks a bit better. It's because it's calibrated, but this is not going to be noticeable because, no, actually it is noticeable. I see it. The G6 has deeper reds in Dolby Vision after calibration. So the Bravia 8 Mark II. Now, the question is, even after calibration, is the G6 too red? Is it oversaturating the red? Or is the Bravia 8 undersaturated? We'll find out at the shootout, because I believe we will be doing possibly Dolby Vision comparisons at the shootout. But right now, right here, the G6 has a deeper red, not brighter red, deeper red. So let me turn down the exposure. I'm really liking the G6 now. It is a hammer with some taste here. Yes, you're seeing that deeper red right there. Not because the Sony is brighter, mind you. It's just the red isn't there. Excellent. Oh, I cannot wait for this rematch. The Sony is not calibrated. So once calibrated, maybe it will look the same. Sony Dolby Vision is not calibrated. It's out of the box. So for you guys, if you guys are not happy with that, get it calibrated before shipping when you call Value Electronics. But this scene is G6. And when you say, oh, that's so close, that's how the Sony won last year. Every one of these scenes, it was just barely better, and it got 5 points more. And you add up those little 1 or 2 points here and there, that's how you win. Right here, if G6 is referenced, the Bravia 8 uncalibrated loses. Once calibrated, however, it may be a tie. And no, there's no reference monitor because we cannot do Dolby Vision reference monitor. The Sony reference monitor does not decode Dolby Vision. It only decodes HDR10. That's the next step. I'm glad you asked. We will convert this to HDR10. Then I will turn on the reference monitor, and then we'll see how that brightness looks on both TVs. But again, the G6 is calibrated, so I don't know. I don't know if that says much, right? But for those of you who are just enthusiasts and you want just the best, the Bravia 8 Mark II performs so close, does it really matter, right? That's a different discussion. All right, so let's go to this scene. I think this is a good one right here. So this is, some complicated dark scenes there. I just want to show you guys a little bit of shadow detail. And I mean, look at that, right? So the knockout out of the ballpark, I think looks great. It looks amazing, both TVs in this scene. So you have minor differences here and there. Is it worth calibrating Dolby Vision? You might want to if you want that extra last ounce of color saturation. But the Bravia 8 Mark II, I think is, after this update, I see no problems near shadow in Dolby Vision. Now, this is not Dolby Vision native app, right? This is Dolby Vision through HDMI on the Roku. What does Dolby Vision look like on the native app? Is that what's wrong? Do I even have Netflix on my native app? Let's see. I don't know. I'm asking myself this question. It's been so long since I accessed this on the Bravia 8 Mark II. So let's see. If not, I'll have to. If you guys give me a few minutes, I'll log in. Oh, yes. Oh, you guys are in luck. We will get to compare head to head. Dolby Vision. Same scene, native app versus. Oh, and I nailed it. And it looks the same. So there you have it. Wow. I have to give myself a hand. We are specifically comparing Dolby Vision native app on the Bravia 8 Mark II uncalibrated. And let's look at the actual settings so you guys can see. Let me turn this down. Okay, so what are we? Let's see here. There we go. All right. So we are in Dolby Vision Dark. I think reset picture settings for Dolby Vision Dark. All right. Oh, Netflix calibrated mode. All right. Does Netflix calibrated mode change anything? I'll tell you right now. I'm curious too. Literally nothing's changed. I'm just like, I'm going back and forth. Let me turn up the exposure so you guys can see. Maybe at the higher exposure, the shadow detail may change. So let's see that. All right. So Netflix calibrated mode is on, off, on, off. Okay. Literally does nothing for this scene. Maybe other scenes. So we'll keep it off. And if you put it on, what happens is the picture mode changes. It's no longer Dolby Vision. It is now calibrated mode. So you guys can see, right? Right? So Dolby Vision is no longer available. So let's just keep it off. There we go. So Dolby Vision Dark. I think it's fine. Let me see. Brightness settings. This is all default. Yeah. Okay. Congratulations, Sony. I think they fixed all the issues with Dolby Vision in this last update. If there were issues to begin with, I really don't know. I didn't even get a chance to look at the issues. And I'm turning it up so you guys can get exposure here. And it looks great, right? Now let's go back to that scene. Well, actually, it's two different two different sources, native on the Sony and not on the G6. So I'm going to take a minute to go back to that one scene that I like because it is this one. Okay, that one is. Let's try the Sony. It's been a while since I've done this for Dolby Vision because it's so time consuming and you never know what's going to happen. All right. Yeah. Shadow detail looks great. The blacks look good. I think it's consistent, right? Oh, wait. The color depth is slightly better. Look, the color depth actually matches. So, okay, remember that red on the other one? It felt like the red was slightly off. So let's switch real quick to the same source and see if that red changes. So let me turn down exposure just a touch. Oh yeah, maybe not. There's a little flickering that I don't see, but my camera does. I think it's because of my frame rate. It's not the TV, it's the frame rate. All right. Okay, so the Sony is native. Let's switch it over to, oh, there it is. Player. Yeah, there you go. Consistent across the board. All good. Okay, let's move on to TV shows. I think you guys had enough fun with Dolby Vision. Oh, darn it. Frame rate messed up. There we go. Okay. And the brightness, oh yeah, peak brightness. Let's see if there's a difference in peak brightness between the two. And the Sony arguably might be over brightening that, but it's so close, it's like half a stop on that little light above his head. So I'm sure if you fully calibrate the Sony, it'd be identical because it's already so close. Excellent. Good job, Sony. And let's move to TV shows. Or rather, we're still in HDR, right? Yeah, let's get out of HDR so you guys can see TV shows. But in the meantime, while we're in Dolby Vision, any requests, I'll do it right now. Same, and we don't have to compare the internal app anymore because we saw how consistent the internal app is with the external version of Dolby Vision. It's all the same. We're good. Okay, what you got? Oh, hey, Dewayne Davis. Hey, let me give you guys a hand. Give Dewayne a hand here. Dewayne, thank you for coming on. Ask him any questions about what he did or did not do to my G6. He's done a wonderful job calibrating, and hopefully I did not misrepresent what he did or did not calibrate. So, and yes, let me constantly remind you guys, my camera always skew color. It's not just my camera, guys. All cameras skew the color tones between tandem OLED and qd-oled. If I correct for qd-oled to make it accurate to my camera, every other technology is off. So it's what it is. So yes, please, everyone who's watching, what is accurate is shadow detail, brightness, relative brightness, right? Contrast, clarity, that we could do with a sensor. Color on any sensor is not going to work because all sensors are hypersensitive to one technology over another, specifically certain colors, whether it's teal or cyan or magenta or green or whatever. So that's, yeah. Thank you, Dewayne, for coming on. All right, let's hit some of your questions real quick. And let me tick it off this scene before the Frankenstein creator gets unhappy with me. Okay, here we go. Robert Conrad. Hi, FOMO. Hope you are well. I am, Robert. Do the Sony Japan Nightscape demo. Crank them both up, and you can totally see the difference. The G6 was brighter than my Bravia 8 Mark II in the last update. Oh, I don't know which one that is, but I have a lot of bright scenes. We will do that in Vivid. So, okay. So, yes, before I leave Dolby Vision, we will do regular HDR next. So I will convert my Roku to standard HDR10, and we'll do that. Hey, FOMO. So I've had the 85-inch Bravia 9 Mark II for a little over a week. Congratulations. Well, I love this TV. I'm swapping it out for the G6 83-inch. I have a dark room, no light coming in. It will be my first OLED. Oh, boy, you're going to love that impact, my friend. Nothing wrong with that. Congratulations. I honestly, I would have done the same. I love the G6. I really do. Okay, the Silk 8692. I have the 75-inch Bravia 9 Mark II. It just stopped working. Hopefully, you're within the return exchange window. Can return it to Best Buy, but scared to chance another Sony with this new tech. If I get the G6, will I get as good of a picture? Absolutely, but each TV is slightly different out of the box, right? They're all these flagship TVs from Sony, LG, and Samsung, they are close in terms of accuracy. But if you want fully accurate to what this TV can do, you should get it calibrated at Value Electronics. Dwayne Davis is here. You can ask him about that. You will get the best picture without any weird editorializing that comes from the actual TV maker. Specular highlights is better than the Bravia 9 Mark II. If you saw my earlier live streams, the Bravia 9 Mark II specular highlights falls short of OLED noticeably when we're talking about tiny stars, right? Star field, it cannot match the G6 or the G5 or the C5 or the B5. OLED will get a specular highlight, and the reason is the Bravia 9 Mark II wants to give you deep blacks, and to give you deep blacks and not bloom, you have to pull back that specular highlight. The tiny ones, right? Not the big ones. The big ones are fine. The tiny stars have to be pulled back. The QM7L decided to push that a little bit harder. As a matter of fact, its star brightness matches the X11L. The difference, X11L has more dimming zones, and so it's blacker. So the QM7L has slightly lifted blacks compared to the Bravia 9 Mark II, but slightly brighter stars because they chose to focus on the specular stars. And you know what? You're in a bright room, you're not going to notice the slightly lifted blacks. So with LCD TVs, when it comes to specular highlights and not enough dimming zones, you have to choose your poison, whatever that may end up being. The X11L has the best contrast and compromise of any TV this year when it comes to star fields and the tiny specular highlights. That's where I think it slightly pulls ahead of the Bravia 9 Mark II in absolute specular highlights. But the Bravia 9 Mark II is getting a few firmware updates since I last tested it. I'm waiting for the 75-inch Bravia 9 Mark II to come so I can compare it to the 85-inch X11L. And we'll see if there's anything changed at that point. Okay, let's see. If you get the G6, will I get as good a picture? Yes. So get the G6. I love this TV. You'll love it too. It will have way better specular highlights than the A95L. Now, the S95H is a different TV. At the 83-inch size, same panel technology, right? No more qd-oled at 83 inches. If that's what, if you're getting 75-inch replacement, so 77 inches, it is tandem OLED versus qd-oled. I have the 77-inch in the other room. I do like that 77-inch a lot. It, however, has a more aggressive anti-reflection coating for bright rooms. So if you are watching in a brighter room, the S95H will be the better TV. I think the distraction from reflection plays more of a role in the image quality than the minute differences in vivid mode. I think vivid mode on the G6 is slightly brighter, slightly more three-dimensional if you like vivid mode, but filmmaker mode is the same, standard, all that very similar, especially if you're watching basic content, even non-basic content like Jennifer Gala. Filmmaker mode it just looks very similar. So choose based on the matte anti-glare or whether or not you like the bezel or the cheaper TV. The A95L, I think, is behind quite a bit in terms of overall brightness, but if you're watching just TV shows like Friends, I don't think it matters. They all look the same. Get the cheaper TV. But personally, definitely it's between the G6 and the S95H. Now, many gamers will go with the S95H because Samsung has done really well with gaming on the S95H the last few years. But the G6, as you saw, looks phenomenal in HGIG mode. So I don't know what the big deal is. So yeah, hopefully that helped you make a decision or made it worse for you. All right. Okay, let's go to regular HDR 10 Plus, and we'll see what happens. Same scene. We'll see if there's any differences real quick. All right. So, here we go. Display type. Just 4K HDR. Let's press that. All right. No more Dolby Vision. We're going to be in 4K HDR now. Yes. Looks good. Okay. Let's see if Netflix catches that. Are we in HDR? Nope. It still thinks. Let's get the Netflix app. All right, now we're in HDR. Okay. Oh, wow. That G6 is popping. Let's make sure we have the right modes, because the G6 is very three-dimensional right now. Its specular highlights is insanely awesome. And of course, it's in cinema home, that's why. Filmmaker mode. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're now in filmmaker mode on the G6. And we are in professional now on the Sony. Let me turn up exposure a bit. Let me just get the shadow. Let me wait for that little OSD from my splitter to go away for a second there. You know, HDR10 looks more similar than different to me. But I still feel that the red pops more on the G6. Maybe because it was calibrated. Thank you, Dewayne. I prefer the top picture because the red, it's a deeper red. The Dolby Vision one looked kind of similar as well. So I think whether it's HDR10 or Dolby Vision, the G6 appears to have more saturated, deeper red. But I don't know if it's brighter or not. Let me see. Let me turn up exposure a bit. Well, it's closer, slightly closer than Dolby Vision. But it feels like to me, the red just feels like it pops more on the G6. I don't know if it's because it's calibrated or if it's because it's panel technology, but judges at the shootout will make the decision because you'll have the reference monitor. Oh, the reference monitor. Let's turn on the reference monitor because now it will display it. All right, let's see this. All right, if I am a judge at the shootout, I'm going to say that the G6 looks more like the reference monitor than the Sony does. Same red. Thank you, Dewayne, you did it. Your calibration on the G6 perfectly matches the reference monitor, to my eyes, as a judge right here. But the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II is not calibrated. After calibration, it's possible that it could get even closer to the reference monitor. And they're all pretty close, right? So I'll turn up the exposure so you guys can see. This is what a shootout is like. You guys get to enjoy a little bit of shootout action here. But a reminder again, the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II is not calibrated. Okay. As you can see, very similar. And we're talking splitting hairs, my friends. Splitting hairs. That's how close they are. So look at that, right? Oh, arguably, the shadow detail, look at the hand, on the G6 is better. That G6 shadow detail right here nailed it. But it's after calibration. I keep having to say that. The Sony is close, but the G6 nails it. So there you have it. Calibration for those who are in the 1% and you need this extra accuracy. I had to hyperexpose for you to see this because otherwise you won't notice this at all. It ends up looking more like this. Right? I mean, okay. Okay. You can't tell the difference there, right? That's the actual exposure that your eyes are going to see. So, but it's just good to know that the G6 is, after calibration, can be made to look like a reference monitor in this scene. Everything is scene specific. So, but I think this new processor is amazing. So the Hammer, great TV. And the Sony, uncalibrated, right there. Okay, so we're still in HDR10. Let's go to a little Jennifer Gala for the brightest scenes available on YouTube, right? So we have some 10,000 nit stuff. We'll compare, and we'll see what happens. And yes, we'll do vivid mode because we'll do filmmaker where we are right now first, and then we'll go into vivid. Filmmaker because I think it's important to understand accurately if it could hit those bright scenes. And we'll use this one. Nice large windows, which is very difficult, like this. All right. Let's see. And the G6, brighter window, by quite a bit. So one, so half. Whoa, 2 stops brighter. So the G6 in this scene is about 2 stops brighter, and I can see the difference, right? So I don't know if you guys can. But this is a very bright, large window scene. And I guess it helps to have a heatsink because, and they're both in filmmaker mode. Let's double check that. I don't want to misrepresent. Okay, yep, filmmaker mode on the G6. And let's double check. Dynamic tone mapping is not on, so it's not attempting to brighten anything. And dynamic tone mapping is off. There we go. Okay, so this is accurate to the reference monitor. Let's see what the reference monitor says. Whoa, 4,000 nits. That's why. So this is a 4,000 nit scene in the brightest part of the screen. And let me turn off these waveforms so you guys can see the relative brightness. We're going to compare the relative brightness shortly to see how close the G6 gets to the 4,000 nit peak brightness over there. The Bravia 8 Mark II professional mode, that is correct. Brightness, max, gradation preferred, that is correct. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. So, G6, as bright as it is, still not as bright as the reference monitor. The reference monitor is about 1 stop brighter at its brightest point. You see that zebra popping up first? And it's possible that both of these TVs started to dim because it's so bright, and they're both OLED. So let's take a step back and try this again. As soon as we get to that scene, we'll see. We're going to give both TVs a chance to, there we go. Okay, yep, the reference monitor is still brighter. And this is 4,000 nits. We saw it earlier. So let's see. So 1, so half, 1, 1.5, 2. It's about 2 stops behind. And the Bravia 8 Mark II is a stop and a half behind the G6. G6, not quite 4,000 nits in that size window, and I don't expect it to be because it is in its filmmaker mode. Now, let's go into vivid mode. Can we catch up in vivid mode where the colors are all screwy and the focus is all on brightness? So let's see. So we see that there. So Robert Conrad, to answer your question, oh yes, it may hit not 4,000 nits in vivid mode after all, Robert Conrad. It might. And the Sony, okay, all right. Let's try this scene again. Remember, we're in vivid mode now. Vivid mode. The whole point is brightness. Is it closer? Yes, it is closer. Or nope, yeah, it is a little bit closer. It's about a stop closer. So half, one, yeah. So it's only a stop behind, whereas in regular mode, it's about 2 stops behind. And I see the Sony, how far it is behind. Yeah, it's only a stop behind. So, yeah, the Sony's not meant to go bright, even in vivid mode. Yeah. So I'm giving the Bravia. So the Bravia 8 Mark II is not. Now let me turn the exposure down so you can see the relative brightness of all these TVs. Right? The Sony is significantly in vivid. It just doesn't have the headroom. So we'll play through. Yeah. Now, the G6, so first of all, the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II is an accurate vivid mode, if that makes sense. The G6 vivid is not accurate. It's meant to hit brightness. If you want accurate brightness, you'd be in Cinema Home. So let's put in Cinema Home and see what the relative brightness is. Or maybe standard. Okay, so that's Cinema Home. And let's put the Sony in standard. Oh yeah, standard's really dark. I'll keep it in vivid. Not bad. Whoa. The G6, and it's as bright as, no, that was unexpected. Whoops. So the G6 is right there with the reference monitor in Cinema Home. Cinema Home is a bright mode, my friends. Let me play this through. Maybe it's the, wow. Hot dang. Cinema Home is so bright. All right, let me see. Now you're losing a lot of detail here though. So there's a trade-off here. First of all, you're just getting brightness. There is no gradient on the G6 in vivid mode. And I'll show you. You see all that gradient in the reference monitor and the Sony? On the G6, it's just white, right? But if I put it back to filmmaker mode, you'll see all the detail you're missing. So the Cinema Home. Oops. All right, here we are in filmmaker mode. See, that's what happens when you go to vivid. You lose all that detail. Now the detail's back. It looks great. It matches the monitor like near perfectly. The Sony is the one that's off. Let me put the Sony in its most accurate mode again so you guys can see. Yeah, vivid. Even in vivid, it couldn't do it. Okay, now it's in professional mode. So this is why the G6 is the hammer. So I know, Robert, that you were hoping the G6 would be even brighter, but clearly for HDR content, HDR10, it is very bright relative to the Bravia 8 Mark II. And arguably, it is so close to the reference. I've never seen an OLED come this close from LG before. So hand clap, oh man, looks good. What's up with the new movie content type on the Sony? It's to let you know that it's movies. People don't know what video images means, so pull this up real quick for you to see. For those of you wondering, right? When you put up this, what's the content type? Oh wait, yeah. So it's 2 types: video images, movie. My Cinema is enabled. You can change picture sound presets optimized for movies using the menu button on the remote. Content type movie. Oh, interesting. So we go to movie. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask Sony, or I'm going to have to ask Dewayne. I just keep it in video images. I have never played with a movie content type. So thank you for bringing that up. I don't see a change though, right? Like, you guys see a change? I don't see a huge change. It kind of stays the same. The image quality. So, for as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't seem to make a difference. We'll have to ask Sony why they did that. Maybe it's to simplify things. Okay. Okay, let's hit some of your super chats to get caught up. Oh, we had that one already. Let's see. Okay, I think in excess. I think I got you right. Let's hit it real quick. Hey, FOMO. So I've had the 85-inch Bravia Mark II for a little over a week. I love this TV. I'll swap it for the G3. Oh, yeah, we did hit you already. Okay. Here we go. Okay, now we'll be caught up. June Lean asks, I don't know why anyone would want the A95L in 2026. That is now a 3-year-old OLED. Isn't it better to wait for 2027 to see if Sony releases a new OLED instead? Okay, so I will throw this out there for you, for your consideration, why people are buying the A95L. And I think it's a good reason. This is why. Let me just adjust this a little bit. Okay, so the A95L is the only QD-OLED from Sony at 77 inches. So if you're in the 55-65 range, definitely get the Bravia 8 Mark II. 77-inch, yes, get the A95L as long as, one, you don't need it to be super bright. So you're just watching, not Jennifer Gala, but just almost anything on streaming that's a movie, it's fine, right? Sports, not great. It's not meant to be a sports watching TV in a bright room. Now, in a dark room, it's fine, right? But in a bright room, you want to fight that extra ambient light. The A95L is not for you. Get the G5, get the G6. If you can find the G4, get that. Get the S95F, right? Those will be far brighter in a bright room. And the S95F and S95H have the anti-glare. The G6 also has a better anti-glare. The A95L is an incredibly accurate, pleasant, great skin tones, 77 inches for 99% of viewers, right? Meaning 99% of enthusiasts don't need the brightness of the G6. Now, you guys, like Jason Conrad, know what you're getting. You're specifically buying this extra level of brightness. Oh, this is a great scene. Look at the specular highlight. It matches the reference, and let me pause right here to see how bright this is, because this is just phenomenal. Oops. There we go. Okay, so how bright is that? $4,000 nits. Dang. Okay, so that's 4,000 nits. And the G6 did it. What? So legit, in real content, it's hitting. Well, let me see if it's hitting or not. Let me turn down the exposure to see. Not quite 4,000. So the monitor hits 4,000. G6 is not there. Okay, it's probably closer to 3,000. So 3,000 nits, but the Bravia 8 isn't even close. There we go. Now the Bravia 8's there. So if you're watching content where you have peak specular highlights at 4,000 nits, right? There we go. G6 comes closer than the Bravia 8 Mark II by at least 2 stops, around there. So close, but not quite. Still the hammer. That's why. Wow. And let's see here. So hopefully that answers your question as to why people want the A95L. It's not to watch this content, obviously, but it's to get a 77-inch QD-OLED. Now, why not get an S95F or S95D? Why not, right? I personally, when the A95L was available, I kind of like the S95D and the S95F more. That was my kind of personal take, because it felt like it was more accurate to the source when I compared to a reference monitor than even the A95L, but the judges disagreed. Both years, the S95D and the F lost to the A95L in judging, critical judging, once calibrated. So I've been wrong before. My personal preference was the S95F and D. Okay, Robert, thank you for the super chat. And YouTube type Sony Nightscape 4K demo. Ah, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let's do that. For you, my friend, let's search for that. Oop, deny microphone. I'll just type it in. Okay, Sony Nightscape 4K demo. What is that? Nightscape, 2 words. Man, I'm gonna have to type the entire thing. Nightscape space 4K demo. Oh, why couldn't it be a short title, Jason? For yeah, I see it. There we go. All right. We are in filmmaker mode. Okay. Let me turn up the brightness on everything and see where we're at. Okay, let me pause right here. Okay, HDR. First, so it's about 1,000 nits. Peak specular highlights are about 1,000 nits, so you guys have an idea how bright these things are. Let's they're very similar because it's not bright enough to push either TV. So first of all, the reference monitor, this is as bright as it needs to be. I know you want to try Vivid, but just so everyone has context, in filmmaker mode and professional mode on the Bravia 8 Mark II, they're doing creator's intent. Because creator's intent can be managed by both TVs. It's not super bright, right? It peaks out at 1,000 nits. Both TVs are doing 1,000 nits quite well. And the reference monitor is indicating, yeah, it's not breaking 1,000 nits. Okay, that's the context. But I think Robert wanted to see how Vivid mode looks in this TV. And we'll try Vivid and standard and different things. So we'll start with a Sony. Let's put the Sony in Vivid. All right. So as you can see, the Sony is quite a bit bright. So let's, there we go. I'm going to have it just under the zebra. This is the zebra under the Eiffel Tower. And I'm going to go right. Oops. There we go. Okay. So we are just below the zebra on the Bravia 8 Mark II. Clearly, it is slightly brighter than the reference monitor because we're in Vivid mode and great color saturation in Vivid. Okay, let's hit Vivid on the LG. quite a bit brighter. Yes, so let's see how much brighter. If you want 3D pop, get the G6. If you want reference to the source, the creator's intent, identical. Either TV is fine, just get it calibrated and you're good to go. But 3D pop means you don't want reference. You want a bit more of that hammer. It's a bit more of that push that is inaccurate. And the G6 has a higher, it's designed in Cinema Home and Vivid to be that 3D pop that you want. So just know that it's not accurate, right? Because the creator didn't intend it to be popping. And is the G6 brighter OLED overall over the Bravia 8 Mark II? Yeah, significantly. By at least at peak, 2.5 stops. Based on what my camera sensor is seeing and what my eyes are seeing, that's about right. And that's significant, by the way, because the Bravia 8 Mark II is bright. Robert, all right, hopefully that did it. Is your Vivid on Sony cranked up with brightness preferred? On my TV, the Sony is brighter. Brightness preferred. Oh, I don't think so. Let's do it. Let's do it, and then we'll do this scene again. Okay, so we are Vivid. Okay. Oh, it is brightness preferred. That's the default. So yes, brightness preferred. Let's go all the way down. So you do black level 50, black adjust medium, advanced contrast enhancer is off, high. But you know what? Why don't I just reset it to make sure that we are out of the box and nothing funky is happening? Reset picture for Vivid and brightness preferred. And it's possible, oh wow, oh, it's advanced contrast enhancer and black adjust. Okay, so these two things made the difference. All right, so let's put, so the Sony is now significantly brighter and Vivid. Let's give LG back its Vivid. The two appear to be nearly identical. So thank you for that, Robert. You are the Vivid expert. I had to reset my Sony to make sure. Okay, so. Okay, so here we are. And let's see which one's brighter. So the LG started the Zebra right here. So this is the brightest part of the scene right here. So I'm going to pay attention to that and see which one hits the Zebra first. It appears that the G6 did. Okay. So there's no Zebra. Yep, G6 has it now. So it's a half stop brighter. One stop. So it's a stop brighter. So the Sony now has that Zebra there. All right, so but you know, maybe the Sony started dimming. So let's just go back one. Yeah, G6 definitely slightly brighter. Yep. Yeah. So there you go. Let's play this through so that none of them really dim, so you guys can see. I'll set it to a slightly, there we go, slightly lower exposure. And so the Sony, once given its maximum brightness setting, is a little bit closer, but not quite the G6. Hopefully, Robert, that answers your question. Yeah, with contrast enhancer on, it's brighter. I think it is on. All right. It is on, my friend. Contrast enhancer. Brightness preferred. Contrast enhancer is on high. Check it out. See? Contrast enhancer is high. Black adjust is high. Peak luminance is high. Brightness preferred. There's nothing more I can do. So it's possibly panel variants. You, my friend, you won the panel lottery because you definitely did. So if you guys don't know what panel lottery is, even as bright as a TV may be, within their production, you're going to have TVs that are slightly dimmer than average for that production line and slightly brighter than average, right? There is an acceptable tolerance, right? They're never going to be exactly the same. And it could be by 200 nits either way. So let's say, Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, right? 2000 nits peak brightness, right? I'm making that up. You're going to have some TVs that only hits 1800, and you're going to have some TVs that hit 2200. But they're all within the average of 2000 nits, and it's not even noticeable without a meter. So oftentimes you have reviewers that measure it, goes, hey, my TV hit 1800 nits. Another reviewer, well, I hit 1900 nits. There's no argument. That's within that variance, TV to TV, panel to panel. Not a big deal. The big deal is if a reviewer has 1500 nits and another reviewer has like 2200, that's beyond panel variance. Someone's with a 15, most likely there's something wrong with that setting. But if it's plus or minus 200 from average and it's a 400 nit swing, that's very common. So, Robert, it's possible that I lost the panel lottery swinging down 200 and you won the panel lottery swinging up 200, and there's a 400 nit difference between us. Or my G6 is about 200 nits brighter than normal, right? I mean, there's so many variations, but I think they're so close that this is about right. This is what I expect. And you're seeing it in this content as well. They're both in vivid, right? They both have their maximum brightness settings, and the G6 is definitely killing it. And yes, they're both in vivid. That's why the reference monitor looks dimmer. But how close are they? Very close, right? Like some of these scenes look very similar. Whew, Robert, you're putting me through my paces. I love it. And so back to your comment. On my TVs, the Sony is brighter. I think you won the panel lottery for sure. Or your G6 lost the panel lottery, or the combination of both. G6 slightly lost the panel lottery and Sony slightly won. That's a huge swing of maybe even 300 nits. Cash my check. Thank you for the super chat. I don't like the Sony Creative Intent look on my Sony OLED TVs. So should I stick with LG or Samsung OLED instead? Choices. Yeah, absolutely. Try the, so what are their personalities? Real quick, right? Samsung wants to be very accurate in filmmaker mode, as do the G6. But the G6 is pushing brightness hardest in vivid mode. Samsung is not playing that game anymore. That dynamic mode actually is more color accurate now than it's ever been. It's standard mode on the Samsung that's super bright. Both are very bright, but the G6, if you like watching in vivid mode, get the G6. If you like watching filmmaker mode, they're nearly identical. And they don't have Sony's, so Sony, the Bravia 8 Mark II specifically, it feels like they have a different calibration out of the box. It feels like the green is undersaturated. They're pushing magenta as a result, and they have a slightly different white point. Now, the new Sonys, I think, are no longer like that. I didn't see that on the Bravia 9 Mark II, but I saw it on the Bravia 9 Mark I. So if you have the Bravia 8 Mark II, yes, it's fine. If you get it calibrated, though, it'll be fixed. Or get the G6 or the S95H. Bright room, S95H, better, slightly better anti-glare. Dark room, they're going to look very similar. But I say experiment, right? If you like the bezel, get the S95H. Slightly bright room, S95H. Better, slightly better anti-reflection. And let's see. Robert sure loves himself some Vivid. Yes, he did. And you know what? He paid the price. His G5 got burned in because he watched a little too much Vivid. A little too much Vivid. Must be something wrong with my G6. The 68 update killed my brightness. Yeah, and it could be that. It's I think you got a panel variance. Now, it doesn't mean that my G6 didn't get killed by the update either. It probably did. But it's just, I might have a slightly brighter panel than you. You know, panel variants being what they are. Okay, I think someone asked for comparing SDR TV shows, right? So let's get into the Roku TV channels. I think it's called Roku TV or whatever it ends up being called. Okay, live TV. There we go. Live TV is a risky game, my friends, because if it's the wrong content, I'm going to be in big trouble. Okay, so let's make sure I turn it to. Okay, so this is HDR content. So let's move everybody back to standard, because the most common is standard. Sony says the standard mode is their favorite mode, or rather the people's favorite mode is standard. And I'm gonna see what this is on. Yep, Expert ISF, bright. Okay, and this one is calibrated, I believe. So they look very similar. Let me turn up the exposure. And let me turn off the reference monitor, or rather change it to SDR. Let's see here. We've been playing that a little bit too long. Okay, they look great. No, here's the problem with live TV. I cannot pause. I would not complain with either TV. I mean, the G6 is calibrated, but even uncalibrated, it probably looked very, I mean, it's just TV shows. So let's try something else. Um, Dateline, all right, just really quick news just to make sure my brightness is kind of matched. All right, I'll make the Bravia 8 a little bit brighter, and then it'll be good. Okay, so max brightness. Okay, I think that's close. Okay, all right, so let's put on some random TV show. Literally TV shows. How about Little House on the Prairie? It's old enough that no one cares. See, the Bravia 8 Mark II is a little bit magenta. G6, a little bit green because of my sensor. They actually look the same. I'm looking on the, it looks the same to me. Oh, I mean, and actually that is purple. That's a weird purple house. But okay, so TV shows look fine, which is what I expected, by the way. But that's HDR. So let's convert it to SDR real quick. So 4K TV, all right, we are now SDR. Oop, let's try it again. Click the wrong button. All right, let's try this again. Okay, I'm forcing SDR to make sure. I think that was SDR before. Actually, that was SDR before. That's always ISF right. Oh well, let's force everything into SDR. Let's watch Netflix and SDR to make it more of a comparison. That same scene actually. So you guys see the difference in SDR, HDR, but the TV shows were in SDR actually, because Roku natively, for their TV guide, whatever it is, that live TV, it's always SDR. All right, let's see what happens. So here we are, 4K, right? When there's no flag for HDR, it is SDR. And let's make sure we have the right settings here. Expert dark, correct. And the Sony is professional, correct. And let's make sure it's just default. Reset to default, yes. All right. Huh. I don't know if you guys will notice this, but I definitely did. It feels like the Sony or the G6 may be a touch undersaturated compared to the reference, just a touch. And in SDR. So this is where Sony wins the shootout. Its SDR matches the reference monitor slightly better out of the box. The G6, even though calibrated, in low luminance, it feels a little undersaturated compared to the reference. Yeah. It feels like a touch of red. It's just undersaturated in the red, just a touch. So I don't know if you see this on YouTube, but I definitely see it. So ignore the curtains on the right. The white points are off, obviously, because the Bravia 8 Mark II is not calibrated. Look at the color, the saturation of the cheek, and the Sony is slightly more saturated. I think this is where it may win SDR again. I think G6 is going to be a lot closer in HDR, but once the 8 Mark II is calibrated in SDR, depends on how heavily it's weighted, right? So we'll see, but I'm pretty impressed. Let me turn up exposure a little. I mean, it's very subtle, but the judges will see that. So this is the issue with WOLED. It's accurate in a range, right? And LG has to decide. You want to be accurate in the lower range in SDR or the upper range? And in this case, the slightly lower range, this is not a super bright scene, but it feels like it's slightly undersaturated. So what it is, right? There's no perfect TV. That's why I'm Mr. HDR Impact, not SDR Impact. Hey, thank you for the super chat. I hope the G6 wins the shootout. Well, you got HDR and SDR, and what I'm seeing here is we'll have to see. We will have to see. LG has a couple of firmware updates to go before it's ready, I think. I think it's going to focus on SDR now. HDR is a knockout. SDR is where it lost last year, by the way. It lost badly in SDR. But half of that loss was posterization, shadow detail, macro blocking. Oh, here's let's turn up the shadow detail here, because his jacket is near black. So let's see what it looks like in SDR. Oh, there we go. And, oh man, slight. I mean, this is good, and this is hyper. I mean, the shadow detail, arguably, Bravia 8 Mark II in SDR could be slightly better as shadow detail, but I'm hyper exposing here. I don't know if the judge will see this. in a dark room, but I see it in my camera's exposure. And we're looking only at the contrast and shadow detail, not the colors, right? Interesting, isn't it? I am glad I'm not judging this one. Woo! So the Bravia 8 Mark II for SDR fans, still the TV to get. All right. But then the Sony appears to be not bright enough in this one. So, well, I can't get any brighter. It's at max brightness anyway. So the Sony brightness is slightly off, but that's the thing, right? You can't tell. You can't tell side by side. You'll have to so once the Sony's calibrated properly, it'll be correct. But out of the box, it's slightly dim in certain areas. Okay. All right. I think we're good, right? What are the comparisons you guys want to see? I think we did the vivid mode with the TV shows. We're in SDR right now. What else? What else you guys got for me? There you go. LG looks like it has green tint. Yes, it's because my camera sensor is sensitive to the green tint. It does not have the green tint. It's just anytime you shoot qd-oled, you have a green tint. If I correct for the green tint, then the Sony will look too magenta. And then you see the magenta on the Sony, it's because it's qd-oled. The magenta isn't there. Well, slightly there, but not that much, right? So that's why. Cameras cannot accurately capture each technology accurately. And the reference monitor is another technology, right? It's a dual cell LCD. So it has a different personality. So do not ever use a single camera sensor to capture accuracy of different technologies. Oh, this is a perfect one right here. Actually, you know what? I will show you this white, because that white is exactly what we'll end with, by the way. I like that scene. Ah. Okay. You see that? The G6 actually looks nearly identical to the reference monitor. I can tell that the G6 was calibrated, but you cannot tell on YouTube because the green is being or the sensor is hypersensitive. My camera sensor is hypersensitive to green, so it's bringing out more green, when the reality is that reference is exactly what the G6 looks like. You just can't tell. Whereas the Bravia 8 Mark II is not that cool. It's even more magenta than it should be because it's qd-oled. So this is a great scene to demonstrate how different these TVs look on my camera, when the reality is the G6 looks more like the reference than the Sony does. Just so, FYI. So that's why it's really difficult for people to make buying decisions looking at color. You can make it based on brightness and listen to what I say, shadow detail, but when it comes to color, this is completely not reflecting what I see at all. It is not that green on the G6, if that's what you guys are seeing. Okay, let's see what you guys got here. Worth upgrading to the QM8L for Dolby Vision 2 from QM8K or the QM7L? I don't know what Dolby Vision 2 brings to the table. I honestly don't. A lot of theory, a lot of specs on paper, we really don't know. What I do know is this. The QM7L is an absolutely it blows my mind how good it is. You know what? Why don't I give you guys a sneak peek of the QM7L if I have it here? Oh, you know what? Sorry. I'll have to review that later for you guys. I'll tell you right now, the QM7L blows me away. It doesn't have Dolby Vision 2, and it doesn't matter. For the money, it is so good. It is the new, it is a poor man's X11L. It is that close to the X11L. It's unbelievable. And gaming, it's great. I really like the QM7L. For value, get the QM7L. The QM8L is a brightness beast, but it's very inaccurate. It pushes brightness 3D pop. That's how it is out of the box. The QM7L is very accurate in terms of brightness out of the box. Ironically, it has better specular highlights than the QM8L. The QM8L also wants to be the contrast king. They want to have better blacks, but to get there, they have to pull back specular highlights a touch. The QM7L has better specular highlights than the QM8L. And Dolby Vision 2 Max, I don't know if it's going to fix that or not. So for me, I know for sure the QM7L will make a lot of people happy. So I would get the larger QM7L. So the price difference between the QM8L and the QM7L is about $500, depending on the size. That's enough to get a larger sized QM7L. With the savings, I would totally do that. They get the same size, but with Dolby Vision 2 Max. It doesn't make sense to me. So Dolby Vision 2 Max is good in theory, but unless you want to wait for the actual release and then I can test it, I wouldn't bid on it. I go for a sure thing, and the QM7L is a sure thing. Right now, it is my point of diminishing return for 2026 is the QM7L. It is definitely in that first tier of TVs, right? If you have a list of TVs in tier 1, X11L, Bravia 9 Mark II, Bravia 7 Mark II, all of that, the QM7L, pricing-wise, is where it starts, and it only gets better from there. So keep that in mind. I have yet to see the UR8. Maybe the UR8 could be that, but it's already more expensive than the QM7L. So even if the UR8 is great, the QM7L is the better value, and that's why I start shopping. If you guys are looking at upgrading and you're just stretching your dollar, can you stretch to the QM7L? And if you can, do it. See other super chat. Oh, I missed a super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so... Oh, yeah, I got a couple of super chats here. Thank you for reminding me, June. And I'm sorry, you had to put a super chat to remind me. All right, and we're going to answer a few more questions, more 5, 10, 15 more minutes, and then ask me anything. If you want to see something specific, G6 versus Bravia 8 Mark II, let me know. Reference monitor is to the left. Okay, everybody should only buy TVs from Value Electronics. Yes, Value Electronics. Let me put out this real quick. Since we're talking about Value Electronics, if they plan to get their TVs calibrated, yes. So Value Electronics will calibrate your TV. Dwayne Davis was here earlier. He'll calibrate it at Value Electronics. They'll be on the phone with you, and they will talk to you. Hey, you got bright room, dark room, gaming. What do you need calibrated? Dolby Vision. My G6 has Dolby Vision calibrated. And want a panel lottery TV? Okay, and that's another thing. They will quality control your TV, meaning dead pixels or just weird banding that, hey, if you lose a panel lottery, you have issues. They will break in that TV for over 100 hours before Dwayne even starts to calibrate to make sure it's working. There are no dead pixels or there are no weird banding. We're talking DSC, uniformity issues, right? They want to make sure all of that is taken care of before Dwayne even starts to calibrate it. That's part of the calibration experience. And it just sucks Value Electronics doesn't have a good return policy like Best Buy and Amazon, though. They're a mom and pop store. So Best Buy and Amazon, why do they have a great return policy? They're a volume dealer. What happens with volume dealer is they can then put it out in front, sell it as open box. They have all this inventory, and it's just high rotation. Mom and pop stores cannot do that, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of like, that's why Walmart has taken every mom and pop grocery store out of business, because they can throw away vegetables and write it off and just, boom, high turnover allows them to do that. So yeah, it's really hard to compete with these high scale, high volume companies as a mom and pop store, but at least you get some personalized service, right? And now that's what I'm talking about. LG G6 looks much better now. It's a great looking TV. I mean, it's You can't go wrong with any of these three TVs. The G6, the S95H, or the Bravia 8 Mark II. The question is, what is the strength of the TV you're looking at, right? Each one has a strength, each one has a weakness. Buy to the strength and deal with the weakness. That's all I can tell you. And if you ask me what your use case is, we'll focus on the strength. Candy Killer, thank you for that super chat. Worth upgrading to the QM8L for Dolby Vision 2 from a Q8K? Oh, QM7L. All right, answer that. I don't think so. Go with the larger QM7L. Okay, June Lean, see the super chat. Okay, I'm caught up. And if I miss anything, let me know. I think I have everything there. Okay, ask your questions, and we will answer. And you know what? Let's put it on a little bit of Jennifer Gala. She got some interesting stuff. Let's just do lions. Oh, this one's a good one. I like this one. There we go. Okay. Oh, we got a super chat right here. Slim Dunn asks, which one you like better or would keep if you could only choose one, G6 or Bravia 8 Mark II? Definitely the G6. It fits my use case, right? First of all, I would rather get a 77 or 83 inch size. The Bravia 8 Mark II stops at 65. But let's just say I'm shopping for a 65 inch TV. I'd still get the G6 because I watch sports in a bright room. Like, you got people over, I want it super bright. I want that. The G6 does that better. And the G6 has better anti-reflection in a bright room. See, I haven't even gotten to image quality yet, right? These are just specific to the G6. Then image quality are so similar, not a big deal. But I do need that extra vivid sports when I have people over in a bright room. Gaming, I think they're both fine for PS5, PS5 Pro, which I have. I did the comparison, not a decision there. HDR impact. Certain movies, I want the extra impact. The G6 does the extra 3D pop better. It's designed to do that, but the Sony is close, right? As you saw, if I put the Sony in vivid mode and max out that contrast enhancement, it comes very close. G6 is just slightly better there. But other than that, the G6 has all the other stuff that I appreciate. But if I wanted to match audio, I would get the Bravia 8 Mark II. I love the Sub 9 could connect wirelessly to the Bravia 8 Mark II. No dongle or anything. Just add a Sub 9 and add two rear 8s or a pair of rear 8s, right? You have immersion without a soundbar, without having to add anything else. Ready to go. The G6 Flex Connect, I have yet to test it, so I don't know how good it is. But the Bravia 8 Mark II with a Sub 9 or Sub 8, the Sub 9 is dual Sub 8s in one box, right? That's the Sub 9. And you got the rears. That's it. You're done. All wireless as long as you have power somewhere near there. So the Bravia 8 Mark II for cinema with audio, then I take the Bravia 8 Mark II. But if you already have a dedicated audio system, then the G6 for me would be what I choose. Okay. Candy Killer. Any recommendations on a 4K player and soundbars? Oh, do I have them? So 4K Blu-ray player, I have been using the Panasonic UB820 since the very beginning when I started this channel. I love it. Why? You've got automatic Dolby Vision detection, right? So if you put in a disc and it's Dolby Vision, boom, detects it, plays it, you're good to go. Automatic HDR10 Plus detection. Your TV is a Samsung, detects it, good to go. It's got slow-mo that's better than any other player out there. Other players don't even have slow motion. Now, for a reviewer, that's important to me. For you guys, probably not. And that's it. I mean, that's why I like it, right? The auto detection. Sony doesn't have auto detection. You have to manually enable, disable, depending on your disc, if it has Dolby Vision and so forth. So the auto detection for me is very convenient. The UB9000 is overkill. You're paying more for a heavier box, heavier case, slightly better DACs, slightly better audio output, but the image quality is identical. If you're just looking at image quality, the UB820 is the one. If you don't care about Dolby Vision or you're okay with a manual, then save money and get the Sony X700. That's my other player. Very simple, manually enable Dolby Vision, and you're good to go. So it'll either be the X700, which I've used, or the UB820. I do have the more expensive, weird ones, like I forgot what it's called, the Magnetar, right? I mean, it's nice. It's very similar to an Oppo. You got region-free capability. So if you want region-free access discs, that's why I would get it. So Oro 3D, region-free. I have those discs, so I have Magnetar to play it. But if you need basic, then they will play the basic. But yeah, if you want region-free capability, you have to go outside of the UB820 or the Sony, depending on what you need. Now, soundbar. This year, so first of all, if you want the best value in soundbar, flagship value, the Samsung Q990F from last year, Prime Day was just barely $1,100. For the money, that's it. If you can get that again, between now and Black Friday, get it. The Q990D or the 990F for $1,000, done. Best soundbar package. You got the actual soundbar, and then you got the rear or sides, and you got a small subwoofer for $1,000. Boom, great value. Now, if you want something that's flagship and it's new and fancy, I love the Sony Trio with the sub 9 or two sub 9s, right? Trio, two sub 9s. That's 4 total subwoofers because each sub 9 is 2 pressed sub 8s. So you have a lot of sub power. Other than the Nakamichi Dragon, right? Nakamichi is doing this multi-sub thing really well as well. But the Sony Trio, 2 sub 9 and rear 9s, to me, that's a flagship solution for any Sony TV. Non-Sony TV, then you can do Nakamichi Dragon. That's another flagship. But entry level, meaning at around $1,000, get a older Samsung Q990F. It's just so good. Now, at super entry level, for under $300, I just finished testing and reviewing the Sony Theater Bar 5. It's like $279 right now, or just under $300. Solid. One sound bar, one subwoofer, perfect for small rooms, small apartments, bedrooms, plug and play. I tested it with my older Samsung Q90R. Works fine. eARC connection. Sony TV works fine, works with any TV. It doesn't have to be a Sony. So keep that in mind. But if you want wireless connection, then it has to match. Whether it's the Sony wireless sub and rears directly to the TVs, or LG's Flex Connect. Has been LG Flex Connect, Sony, or not Sony, the Dolby Flex Connect, LG to LG, or TCL Dolby Flex Connect, TCL to TCL. Those are also wireless options. But among the wireless options, the Sony subwoofer sub 9 is the most powerful, capable one you can get. But for wireless, you only can connect one sub. If you want 2 subs connected, you have to then add a bar 8, bar 9, or the Trio. I hope that helps. But you didn't tell me what your budget is on soundbars, so I'm kind of like rambling all over the place for you there. All right. Any more questions? So this is interesting. I have one of these older Stratos, by the way. Matty Daddy. Lots of Kaleidoscope Strato E and V on the used market due to the Strato K launch. Yeah, so this is something I want to throw out there as well. So the Strato K, 8K aside, it promises the cinema mezzanine 444. Make sure your TV can be properly put into 444. Out of the box, every TV is 420. To get to 444, you have to go into PC mode on these TVs. That's a whole other song and dance. In PC mode, make sure you calibrate PC mode then, obviously, and make sure you have the right settings in PC mode. I don't even know where to start with that, right? Because all the other picture modes, whether it's filmmaker, professional, whatever, it's 420. You need to go into PC mode on some of these TVs to get 444 enabled. So you don't even know if you're watching 444. You may be still in 420. How do you know it's 444? I do not like that ambiguity at all. So if you get a Strato K, make sure your TV settings get the right setting to actually support 444. I don't know, man. I don't know. Why 444? I don't know. Yeah, but you're probably right. They're rich, right? They got money. Just get rid of it and get a new one. I still have the normal 4K HDR 420. For what I need, I'm good. So we're talking the shootout. After all the crap they got last year for Sony winning again, I doubt they will choose Sony. So remember, they are judges, and judges do what judges do. I didn't have a say. Dewayne didn't have a say. Like, we were like, wow, Sony won again. So the judges do what they do, and they don't care. So if they choose Sony again, what are you going to do? Because let's just say Vincent was shocked his judges chose Sony. So forget us. Across the pond, Vincent did it, and he couldn't believe that Sony won. So what we as reviewers think and what judges think are two completely different things. Remember that. Got a couple of super chats. Here we go. Nash casts. What price do you think the 77-inch G6 will be by Black Friday? G6 or 9 Mark II for mostly YouTube. I saw the 9 Mark II in store, leaning towards the G6 now for ink black specular. Yep, 77-inch G6 is fine. I give it a thumbs up. Question is Black Friday, what will it be? This is so hard. With prices, global prices, chip, everything being crazy, I really don't know. I would use the G5 at 77-inch last year as a bookmark for this year. Probably 2600, 2500. I really don't know. Use the G5 77-inch in October or November last year as a guide. It'll be plus or minus $100 from that price. And I think the G6 is great. I would not convince you otherwise. Panasonic, thank you, cash my check. Panasonic Z95C allegedly has been released in Japan, allegedly, but yet is still not getting buzz. It really looking like Panasonic is dead for sure. Yes, if you guys have been following Panasonic news, their leadership has already said, we're getting out of consumer electronics generally, not just TVs. We're talking, cookware and just whatever. It's because the money isn't there. Consumer electronics is a race to the bottom in terms of margins, right? Unless they make money on the data collection, which they aren't. Panasonic did not do a good job with data collection. I mean, ironically, if they did, they'd still be in business, but they didn't. So consumer electronics, right, whether it's refrigerators, if they're collecting data, it supports the low margins by getting revenues elsewhere. Panasonic does make a lot of money in industrial business to business, like chemicals and electric vehicle batteries and just whatever, right? Just industrial. They make so much more. So like, why are we wasting resources trying to figure out consumer electronics? Let the Chinese take over. We're done. And so that's why. So it's not just Panasonic. It's anyone in the consumer electronics industry, anyone. You have a problem because it's a race to the bottom with thin margins. It's not a good place to do business unless you're all about data collection. Okay, I think we're good. Here we go. Let's follow up on the Kaleidoscope. From what I read, 444 only applies to HDR and SDR cinematic files. Cinematic 4K Dolby Vision will still be 420. Yeah, because Dolby Vision doesn't care. I could be wrong, but there's more about it not known still. Correct, as far as the source, but I'm not wrong about the TV. TVs are not designed to replay 444. They assume only computers are doing that. So the TVs have all been designed to receive a computer signal in 444. Getting the right setting to accurately do 444 or to actually do 444 is a whole song and dance on the TV side. So we're, you're going to know a lot about what Kaleidoscope is doing. I don't know if we know enough about what the TV is doing. So I think for TVs, let's just wait for that to happen. All right, I think we can almost wrap up. Looking for interesting questions and comments before we go. Oh, here we go. Martin Drury arrived late. I'm almost done. Can't decide whether to watch from the start or live and risk spoilers. Either way, thanks, Ron. We're looking forward to this. Yay, we're almost done. Just watch from the start, my friend. And you're going to have a fun time. Okay. I think, yeah, let's wrap this up. I'd like to thank, Candy Killer stuck one in. I was going to thank Dewayne Davis for hanging out and answering questions. And again, if you guys don't know, Dewayne Davis calibrated the G6 and did an amazing job. He will be the one calibrating your TV. If you ask Value Electronics, hey, I love your TVs, I want to get it calibrated, Mr. Davis here will do it. Candy Killer, super chat, thank you. Getting QM8L 75-inch, no calibration, but I might return it for the QM7L. If it's better out of the box and the budget soundbar for 500, under player 400, under 400 or so. I just love Dolby Vision and gaming. So QM7L Dolby Vision, I didn't test it, by the way, but gaming is fine. Dolby Vision is a whole other thing. I didn't test TCL's Dolby Vision. I don't know, but it should be okay. I don't know. I honestly don't normally test Dolby Vision, but I did test it here because the G6 Dolby Vision was calibrated. I was curious to see how the Bravia 8 Mark II did in its Dolby Vision. It did fine, but I think the QM7L is a phenomenal TV. Gaming on the PS5, absolutely fine. So Xbox should be fine. Get the QM7L. Save some money and get the other stuff you want. With a soundbar, it becomes an amazing TV. So yes, Candy Killer, thumbs up. Good choice. And we have Alan Farkas 007. I have a 65-inch Bravia 8 Mark II. Planning to get, for a bright living room, a 77-inch OLED, S95H or G6. Bright living room, the S95H, better anti-reflection. I would probably choose the S95H because I think the reflection ends up being the killer. Gaming, PS5, streaming, and best speaker needed. So the S95H doesn't have the best speaker. It probably has the worst speaker in this group. The Bravia 8 Mark II has better speakers. The PS5 has better, not PS5, the G6 has better speakers. The S95 historically has not had great speakers, which is fine. That's what soundbars are for, right? So, yeah, just TV speakers. The S95H is going to be a little, it doesn't get loud. How about that? I mean, the sound quality is fine. It just doesn't get loud enough if you're a bit farther away. So you should still throw in even a cheap soundbar. Like Samsung has a bunch of $200 soundbars. Forget the subwoofer. Just throw it in there. Great, it works. But the S95H, I think, can stand to have a little soundbar to increase the volume. But try it without the soundbar. The volume, fine. But in a bright room, ambient light being what it is, I like the matte anti-glare, no reflections. I appreciate that, and I would do it. I would take the S95H because of that. Because I think that is more important than the minor brightness differences in vivid versus standard. All right, cash my check. Dolby Vision 2 Max, still taking forever. Yeah, well, you got 3 companies working together. You got Dolby Labs, you have TCL, and then you have Google, right? It's the operating system, and they have, MediaTek, right? Everyone's got to work together, make sure everything works, because everyone's touching the image somehow. And so until everything works, it cannot, the firmware update will not come. If it's not here by July, I'm starting to think they've been playing us and never coming. It'll come, just maybe not this year. It's just not this year. Maybe in a few years. Okay, I think we're ready to wrap up. Man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for showing up on a Sunday afternoon. I think I left many of you the rest of your Sunday to enjoy yourself. I'm going to have a QM7L Final review coming up this week. Spoiler, I love that TV. I think that is probably going to end up being, it's in the lead for my editor's choice LCD TV, because editor's choice takes value into consideration. And this LCD, so good as a value. And we'll end with this. FOMO, will you stream the Value Electronics Shootout? My friends, I absolutely will stream the Value Electronics Shootout. Let me just move this aside here so that we can talk about it real quick and give credit where it's due. First of all, Dewayne Davis, if you're still here, he is definitely in charge. He is going to handle the calibration in terms of the TVs themselves, right? Now we got people handling the judges, this and that, but Dewayne Davis is in charge of making sure these TVs perfectly calibrated so that when the judges look at the TVs, these are the TVs the best they can be, as well as calibrating the reference monitor so the TVs have a shot. Every TV has the best shot possible at winning, right? We're not playing favorites at all. If he's still here, you could ask him about what his approach is, but ultimately, Dewayne Davis will be the man that is the technical expert on all the TVs and the reference monitor. And yes, I will be streaming the Electronics TV Shootout like I have been streaming for the last several years now. Brian will be my co-host, and we'll probably start sometime in the morning, West Coast time, and go all the way through the evening, oftentimes late at night, because we have two sessions. We have OLED in the morning, and then judging, and then the winners, and then we will do RGB, SQD, mini LED, LCD TVs, the best, in the afternoon. We know for sure we'll have the Sony Bravia 9 Mark II in the afternoon, as well as the Samsung S95H and the TCL X11L SQD, all 75 inches. Whether or not we'll have the LG RGB flagship really depends on whether we can get it, one, and if we do have it, is it good enough? Because they have to be good. Just because it's RGB doesn't mean it deserves to be there. And the Hisense UR9, I mean, I think it's too rough. I don't think, unless they can fix that tone mapping, definitely is not going to win. The UR9, in my opinion, the processing is not good enough. I told Hisense that they need to either add more dimming zones or get better software to control the gradient detail, because in a shootout, you're going to get destroyed by the RGB TV and the R95H, because it's all about accuracy with gradient detail. And above a certain brightness, the UR9 just cannot do that. We're not talking like 4,000 nits. We're talking maybe 1,500 nits. So that's something that Hisense needs to figure out. And I know the 116UX, the true flagship, the cyan subpixel, if it came at 75-inch, I would have put that one out there. So, it's what it is. But yeah, July 18 is the shootout. We'll be hosting. I cannot wait. And thank you again, Robert Zone, Value Electronics, for hosting the entire event for the last, 25 years now? All right, so, and I think that's it. FOMO, will you review the Sony Bar 7? With and without sub, I'm looking to buy my mom a new soundbar. Bose Ultra, Ambeo Plus, something Sony, or the Klipsch. I wasn't planning to review the Bar 7, but I can tell you generally each of them. If you want to add a subwoofer, the Bar 7 has that upside, Bose as well. The Ambeo, I don't know if you can add a subwoofer. I just know it has good bass to start with, but it's a Sennheiser, so it's really designed for great music. I like the Bar 7 because you could add the satellite rears if that's important to you. Bose Ultra, you could also add matching satellites, but Bose feels like, well, you know what? My bad. I don't know much about the Bose Ultra, actually. I was thinking Sonos. Bose Ultra, not familiar. Ambeo Plus, Read a lot of reviews, haven't had much experience about it. Klipsch, similar to JBL in terms of full package, everything, but the 200, I'm not personally familiar with that. I'm more familiar with Sony's lineup, and with the Sonys, the Bar 7 is where the performance starts if you want clarity and dialogue. So the thing with the Sony is it's made for movies, right? Literally. It's not made for music. It's not optimized for ambient music or anything like that. It's optimized for movie watching. So if you want something that also has connections for, I don't know, Spotify, you want great music, this, that, and the other, it might be the Bose, it might be the Ambeo. But if it's just pure movie, I know Sony Bar 7 will do the job, if that helps. And you can always add a subwoofer to the Sony Bar 7 anytime. A big subwoofer if your mom cares. But I'll think about it. I know if I ask Sony, they'll send me the Bar 7 to review, but I don't know. Soundbars are so hard to review because you need two, it's all relative, right? Yeah. And yes, Brian is suffering a heat wave on holiday. I think he's in London somewhere. London with his shirt off because everyone in London has their shirt off right now. Okay. And okay. Should specify it's for mom. No subwoofer, best bass in the bar, best Atmos, best voice. Okay, so the best bass in the bar is probably the Ambeo. Bose Ultra, I don't know. But the Ambeo was designed with a lot of bass in the bar. But I think your mom would appreciate clear dialogue. So make sure the Ambeo has a dialogue uplift or some kind of a voice zoom. The Sony Bar 7 has a voice zoom that can specify that the dialogue be clear. None of them have great Atmos, by the way. You cannot get great Atmos out of a soundbar. Just focus on a wide range sound, right, from mid-bass up, clear dialogue option, and I think that's all you can ask for. As far as Atmos surround, forget it. It should not be considered. It should be the bass, how deep they go, and normally the larger the subwoofer, the larger the sound bar designed for bass, the more bass you're going to get. And the Ambeo is huge. Bose Ultra, I don't know, but the Ambeo is pretty legit when it comes to bass as far as giant sound bars are concerned. Whereas Sony wants you to add a sub to get that bass. The Ambeo was designed not to have a sub. Okay, and Robert, you get the last word, my friend. Oh, wait. I missed a couple super chats. You will get the last word. Your average anime joyer, 3220. Is the G6 83-inch for $4,500 a good deal? Yes. Actually is. At this time of the year, yes. I get it. It's a good TV, but this time of the year, that's a pretty good deal. And Robert, okay, you have the last word, and then we will end. I just did a soft reset of my G6, unplugged it for 5 minutes. My brightness is back. How bizarre. And sometimes, as they say, just unplug the darn thing. I love it. I think that's a lesson for all of us. I knew something wasn't right. Hey, everyone, if you're in Europe especially, stay cool, hydrated out there, everyone. Hey, and thank you so much for showing up. Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO.